Hi, this is Liz Chilsen, and I'm back with Deirdre Fox and Yoonshin Park talking about Deirdre's show in the FlexSpace at the Riverside Art Center. And we were going to spend a minute talking about the physical exhibition, and so I'm just going to show us some images. Deirdre, would you like to talk about this?
Sure. So I think one of the things that's really strange and interesting is I do my work very much site responsive to the space that I'm in. And it's kind of my feeling as the person walking around the space and communicating something about the space out to the viewer when they see the final installation. And that's one of the things that I was working with here. And it's creating an environment to think about these materials. When you see these materials and you see them in the exhibit, you don't necessarily know straight off. I mean, the bottles, you can see the bottles here. You can tell that those are soda bottles or water bottles. But the lines, all the lines are made from plastic bags. And you might not realize that immediately when you come into the space, but allowing you to move around the space and get close-ups on your own from the space is part of that I don't know, interaction to help underscore this idea of what it means to reconsider these materials. And we had the opening and we were able to, have people come into the space and realize that and view that and have their own little bits of surprise when they looked up close and saw that something was really truly made of plastic bags. And when they came back, and you can't take it all in one viewing, and you really get to interact with it yourself and commandeer the experience for yourself. You can't really do that when you're showing images. It doesn't give you as a viewer the freedom of walking around the space. So it's a very strange thing. I was in the space a week ago taking images of the work and had this really strange disconnect, realizing that for all the folks who weren't going to be able to see and experience the piece within the space, they were never really going to get that sense of walking around. And even video, I think there's a few video clips here where, but you can't really communicate that. And it's a very strange disconnect working site responsively and having that piece almost lost in the communication of the work online or through images. So this piece is essentially crochet and woven plastic bags. And I think, like I said, you might not initially think that it was plastic bags. It's situated in its arrangement and its positioning with the window and where it lays against where you would see from the inside of the space looking out, how you would see these against the window and the buildings across the street. And again, something that's not really easy to communicate online. This piece is a detail image, so this would be the experience of coming up closer to the image from the background, and the viewer would be able to have their own interactions with the work this way. But as you get closer into the image, you can, I think, definitely tell now that it's made from plastic bags. So it's a little bit of a surprise.
Yoonshin, did you have any thoughts that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, sure. What made me think about curating Deirdre's work at the FlexSpace? This is my second time curating a show with her work, and that was a mere curiosity of wanting to see her installation happen in a given space from beginning to end. For last year's exhibition, for example, part of her work in the space was already diagrammed. So although the exhibition was a two-person show, we had to divide the space, and the piece uses the space without visible lines of the frame, but it was kind of contained within visible and certain boundaries. Here at the FlexSpace, the vignette of installation create dialogues, not only with the existing architectural structures or structuring elements of the space, but also with neighboring lines and forms and natural light coming from the windows and doors and the shadows created. So the interconnectivity is what made this installation really exciting and what made the viewing experience really unique. So I want to ask how did you feel about this interconnectivity happening in this flex space?
Well, I think definitely, as I said, the work is site responsive, and the different pieces interconnecting and interweaving within themselves is also part of how I think about putting together the ultimate installation in the space, because it is this idea of situating the viewer or the person who's looking to work in any given part of the exhibit. When you're looking, you'll only be able to take in so much of it. You have to move around and come in close. And so you're almost panning in and out yourself as the viewer and controlling that experience and how one line leads to another. So I'm definitely thinking about how all the pieces interweave and all the vignettes interweave among themselves. And there are six vignettes that are within there. And I have a sort of idea of the order in which they would go and speak in a poetic way, but they can be interchanged and experienced differently by the viewer in terms of what the viewer chooses to hone in on and what excites them to move in on. And I think part of the way that the pieces weave together so that any given piece is very not necessarily wholly focused on at any given point in time. It's how the works interact with each other and lead back and forth and change each other. Kind of the way color interacts with color to experience color, to really get a sense of what colors are. You need the colors working together to know what one color is against the other color.